In the previous video, I have chosen the input for X very carefully. I have always entered a name, which is a string input. And I have shown you that for that string input, whatever name it is, Alice, Bob, it can be your name, it can be any string in the world, this is working fine. But what if you want to take an integer or a floating point number or something else as an input? Will it work in that case also? Let us see through a demo. So first let me comment out the previous example, what we have discussed. Now let us take another variable called I, and here I'm writing input, then enter a number like this. So now it is expect user will enter a number. Now first let us try to print it, whether it is printing the number properly or not. Print, let's print a customized message first. The number is equals, comma, then I. So let us see whether it is printing properly or not. So now it is asking the user to print a number. I am entering 4, and if I just hit enter, it is printing the number is 4. That's okay. But what about if I want to do some integer operation? Will that work properly? Well, now you need to know something more about the Python input function. Whenever you use input function to read an input from the user, Python read it just as a string, not as an integer, neither as a floating point number, neither as any other data types. It always read the input just as a string. So whenever you want to do any type of integer arithmetic or any type of integer operations, it will throw an error. So let us try to understand it through a demo. For example, let's say I'm taking another variable called result, and what result will do is it will add 2 with the number that will be entered by user. So variable I, it will add 2 with that. So if the variable is read as an integer, there should not be any problem. And but if the variable is a string, then as you can understand, this I plus 2 should be a problem because it is trying to add a string with an integer. So let us see what happened. But before going there, let me just try to print the value of result here. Instead of I just changed it to result. So if it is an integer, if I is read as an actual integer, it should print 4 plus 2, that is 6. But if I is read as string, it should throw an error. So let's see what happened. So it is asking me for a number. I'm entering 4, and when I am hitting enter, it is basically throwing me an error. What is the type of error? That is, it can only concatenate string, not integer. So this is proving that I is basically a string and it cannot be added with an integer, like following the integer arithmetic. So what is the option? What can I do? Now, in Python, basically, it is always possible to convert any string to any data type following this method. So before the string variable that you want to convert, you just have to do this. So int is the class in Python. You should know from your previous video. And if you want to convert a string, in this case I, to an integer, you can just use int before and then inside parenthesis write down that string. So now if you run it, it should print 6 because int I, this entire expression, expression is basically converting the string 2 to integer 2. So let us see whether it is printing correct result or not. So here, enter a number. I'm entering 4, and now as you can see, it is printing 6. So this int I basically converting this 4 to integer, and then it is adding it with 2. So that is why it is correct now. Now it's not only about integer. Let's say enter a number if I want to take a floating point number. In that case, what do you need to do? You can simply, instead of integer, you can use float. So now if I, let's say, run it, and if I just, let's say, a number like 4.9876 or something, and now if I just hit enter, you can see that the number has been read as a float. The input has been read as a floating point number. So always remember, whenever you will use input to read an input from user, you have to convert the type to the actual data type you want to operate on. Otherwise, everything is read as a string. So do not forget this type conversion step after input if you need.